Incredible transformation. Homeless girl saves dying man only to discover his hidden billionaire. Maya crouched low behind the dumpster, the cold biting through her threadbare clothing as she searched for scraps. The weight of the city pressed in around her, a cacophony of honking taxis and indifferent pedestrians. A heartbeat beneath the chaos. She needed to scavenge food, warmth, anything. The familiar fear gnawed at her, another day lost amid the concrete jungle, another chance for kindness slipping away. With weary eyes, she scanned the alley. Hope felt like a distant flicker, nearly extinguished by the nightly struggles of survival. Suddenly, a low groan pulled her attention. There, sprawled in the shadows, lay a man shrouded in grime, his breaths shallow and labored. Tom. She had no time to hesitate. As she rushed to his side, her heart raced. The instincts that had kept her alive now pushed her towards something greater. Help. Someone, please. The shaking tremors in her voice didn't match the urgency ignited within her. She couldn't let him fade away, not like this. The weight of desperate decisions crowded her thoughts, forcing her to confront her isolation. What was she willing to risk for someone else's life when hers felt so fragile? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. When the paramedics arrived, the sirens and flashing lights felt like a cosmic twist of fate. As they loaded him into the ambulance, Maya's heart ached with uncertainty. She had saved him, but at what cost? She walked along the streets, wrestling with the weight of her actions. Could she return to her life of invisible solitude after daring to save another? Hope was a candle flickering in a storm, and this new connection threatened to consume her. Tom's recovery fostered an unexpected bond, and as days turned into shared meals and heartfelt exchanges, doubt crept into her mind. Was this man, once a stranger and now a lifeline, really someone she could count on? His stories filled the silence she had grown accustomed to, each word instilling a yearning deep within her. When he offered her a scholarship one afternoon, she wrestled with the intensity of her emotions: fear, excitement, disbelief. Was this real? A future? Could she deserve such a chance? But just as that spark ignited, the shadows loomed larger. His family had caught wind of his recovery, and their fingers dipped into darkness, extending claws of greed that sought to tear their bond apart. As she faced the chilling weight of a letter demanding her departure, Maya's stomach dropped. Judgment swirled in her head. What would they think of her? A homeless girl rubbing elbows with a billionaire? Who was she to challenge their claims? She had fought for scraps her entire life. Now she had to confront the essence of family, the very marrow of loyalty versus blood. Time was slipping away, thick with tension and looming dread. Seated at the edge of her tattered blanket, the letter crumpled in her hand, Maya breathed irregularly. Did she stand a chance against a legacy more powerful than her own desperate hope? The emotion bubbled in her chest, straining against her fragile spirit. Would she fight for love over legacy, for belonging over estrangement? The question spiraled, and as the night deepened, so did her resolve. Would she choose to claw her way to Tom's side, or would she retreat into the shadows where she felt safest? The silence closed in, heavy and thick, trapping her in the gravity of the decision that could change everything. The battle for Tom's legacy had just begun. Maya stood alone in the dim light of her forgotten world, cradling the crumpled letter that now felt like an anchor dragging her deeper into chaos. Each word ominously echoed in her mind, burdensome as she battled the conflicting tides of her heart and head. The free fall of uncertainty threatened to shatter her fragile resolve, but a flicker of determination ignited her spirit. She had faced darkness before, she could do it again. With every deliberate breath, Maya tapped into the resilience forged from years of survival. What if this was her moment, not only to defend her connection with Tom but to step into her potential? The thought caught her off guard, shocking her from despair. Maybe she could leverage this unexpected situation, turning the tide of fate in her favor. Clarity washed over her, a potent reminder that she had lived in anonymity for too long. It was time to reclaim her voice. "We're not enemies," she whispered aloud, as if conjuring courage through the affirmation. "I deserve a place in this narrative." She had to confront Tom's family and shake the pillars of their expectation, even if it meant entering their gilded cage. After all, their wealth could hardly rival the depths of her tenacity. The following morning dawned cold and unyielding, but it paled against the furnace of purpose roaring within Maya. She navigated the urban landscape, trails of city life whirling around her, yet she moved with newfound conviction. The sun hung low, sketching shadows that chased her resolve down the bustling streets. As she approached the sleek, glassy facade of Tom's family's estate, her grip tightened around the letter. The world inside was one she didn't belong to, with its polished finishes and extravagant wealth. How do you engage a family bound by privilege when your existence feels like an intrusion? Each step felt like an ascent into the lion's den, the stakes towering higher with every heartbeat. "Just be honest," she murmured, the words a mantra against the icy grip of her anxiety. Simple and unadorned, it was a strategy but also a litmus test for her growth. If she was ever going to find a place amid their pretentious power, authenticity had to lead. The imposing oak doors swung open before her hesitant knock. A servant escorted her into a grand foyer adorned with art and opulence, the air thick with the scent of formality. The family gathered in the parlor, their eyes fitting her with an assortment of incredulity and disdain. Each gaze hit Maya like a strike, yet she straightened her spine and anchored herself in the truth of her experience. "Tom has a bond with me," she began, her voice unwavering as she met each skeptical stare. "I'm not here to take advantage of him, but it seems you think I represent a threat to your family's legacy." She allowed a beat for her words to settle, seeing the flicker of surprise in their eyes, a visceral tremor she seized hold of. Lofting the letter between them, she continued. "This letter threatens everything we've built. You might see me as just a girl without a home and nobody. But here I stand, unapologetic for my existence, and I'm here for Tom." The room shifted. Tension coiled and uncoiled like a spring. The perfect veneer of their wealth juxtaposed with tears now shimmering on the edges of her resolve. She brought forth not only herself but the myriad stories woven into her very being, a tapestry that encompassed resilience and struggle. As whispers and fervent exchanges rippled through the room, self-doubt took root. Had she lost the ground she'd gained by speaking her truth? What if the tide surged against her as they so often had before? But in that moment, aligned with the energy of her journey, Maya realized there was nothing left to lose but the chains of a past that no longer served her. It was a powerful insight, a deeper understanding of her own worth expanding in cadence with her pulse, fortifying her footing as the confrontation unfurled. Tom stepped into the room, eyes flaring with concern as he took in the charged atmosphere, uncertain but intent to listen. The time had come to face his family, Maya thought, the weight of her defiance igniting a new urgency. Gone were the shadows of obscurity, she had chosen her path. But would Tom stand beside her or withdraw into the depths of familial expectation? The room held its breath, the air thick with expectation. The next move rested not just on her shoulders, but on a bond that could either shatter beneath the weight of privilege or stand firm in the crucible of loyalty. Maya's heart raced as she locked eyes with Tom, seeking a flicker of solidarity amid the charged silence that thickened around her. All her fears hung palpably in the air, each moment stretching into infinity. But she held fast to her truth, the quiet anthem of resilience that surged through her veins, urging her to stand tall against the weight of expectation. "Tom," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside, "this isn't just about us anymore. It's about who we decide to become despite our circumstances." She embodied the very philosophy she had often pondered, to rise above, to grasp for a life she truly wanted, rather than what was handed to her by the hand of fate. The room, typically a sanctuary of wealth and privilege, transformed under the weight of her determination. It was no longer an intimidating chamber laden with ancestral plaques, it became an arena of personal revelation. This was her fight, and she felt empowerment washing over her. The icy wind that rushed in from outside felt light compared to the storm brewing within her. Tom's family exchanged glances, their expressions oscillating from judgment to confusion. Her words dripped with authenticity as they resonated in the hollow space of their expectations, boxing her into a category they understood. But just as they had tried to label her as a nobody, she had flipped the script. "I know who I am," she continued, her tone growing more forceful. "I am not ashamed of my past. I'm here because of love, because I believe in something that is worth defending. We can bridge this gap, but only if we're willing to confront the truths we hide behind our wealth and status." The silence burgeoned, mismatched with the elegant decor surrounding them. Framed portraits looked on, condemning her and yet silently cheering for her audacity. The family's narrative was one Maya would not allow to swallow her whole. "You're right," she said slowly, turning her features toward the matriarch of the family, who seemed the most skeptical. "You view me as a threat. But the real threat lies in the failure to adapt, to evolve with the world around you. This isn't just about privilege versus poverty, it's about the integrity of personal connections." As she delivered her words, Maya noticed Tom's fists clench, the tension in his jaw revealing his turmoil. He had always been the benevolent one, ensconced in his protective bubble of privilege. Would he embrace her or withdraw into the cocoon of family loyalty? And then, she noticed him moving forward, his resolve hardening like iron. "Mother, father," he called out, his voice echoing around the chamber, "Maya is right. Our love is worth the fight. We shouldn't be afraid of someone who challenges our perspective." She has shown more courage today than most people do in a lifetime. With each syllable, Maya felt the tide shift. This was not just her battle anymore, it was theirs. If Tom could step into the light with her, they could dismantle the barriers that had long kept their worlds apart. "Thank you," she breathed, her eyes gleaming. Generosity swelled in her heart, intertwining with gratitude. Together, they began to forge a unified front, taking steps forward, slowly dismantling the expectations forged by Tom's upbringing. "What if," she proposed, her voice softer now, "we create a new legacy, one that combines our strengths?" The question hovered like a delicate thread between them, symbolizing a bridge to a jointly constructed future, but even as Tom's family began to react without immediate hostility but tentative curiosity, the lingering shadows of doubt hovered. Maya realized she was standing on shifting sands. Their acceptance could easily slip away. The challenge was clear: how to redefine the narrative that had kept them apart, to cultivate respect amid the disparity. What avenues of authenticity would they pursue together? As she locked eyes with Tom once more, doubt flickered at the corners of her consciousness. This was only the beginning. Their journey would demand as much of him as it did of her. The stakes had been raised, but so, too, had the promise of growth. Each moment presented an opportunity not only to confront adversity but to transform it into something powerful. But as Tom opened his mouth to answer her proposal, a sudden interruption rattled the room. A sharp knocking echoed from the entrance, heralding someone whose presence threatened to redefine everything they had fought for. Maya's heart raced anew, bracing for what was to come. Who stood waiting outside? The answer could change the very foundation of their brave new world. Maya's heart pounded, the echo of that knock reverberating through her. The air shifted, charged with a new tension, triggering a cascade of anxiety that threatened to claw at the steady ground she had just begun to build. She exchanged glances with Tom, who mirrored her unease. Their moment of solidarity felt fragile, an intricate glass sculpture teetering on the edge of a precipice. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a tall figure, his posture commanding yet weary, an aura of both confidence and vulnerability swirling around him. Maya squinted, struggling to gather the pieces of his identity. There was something unsettlingly familiar about him. As he stepped into the threshold, the light caught the contours of his face, illuminating features etched with time and secrets. "Maya," Tom said at last, breaking the charged silence. "Do you know him?" I think I've seen him before," she stammered, a flicker of recognition igniting in her mind. There had been whispers, hushed conversations about what could have been, glimpses of a world that seemed so far removed from her own. This man, who now stood before her, radiated allure but also a haunting sadness. "Vincent," he said, his voice steady but tinged with an underlying current of urgency. "I wasn't sure I'd find you here." The way he said her name caught her off guard, as if he possessed the truth of her life in a way that few did. There was a weight to it, an understanding that reached deep beneath the surface of her carefully constructed defenses. "Do you need help?" She tightened her jaw, instinctually preparing to defend herself and Tom. "I've come to make an offer, a proposal, of sorts." His gaze darted between her and Tom, who crossed his arms protectively. "But first, I need you both to trust me." Maya hesitated. Trust had been a hard-fought lesson, something she had earned only after years of striving for authenticity. This man seemed like a cipher, a riddle that promised to lead her somewhere yet felt dangerously unpredictable. "Just tell us what you want," Tom interjected, a hint of frustration shining through his normally placid demeanor. Vincent took a decisive step forward. "I know there are walls between us. Walls made of fear, past misconceptions, and expectations. But I've seen the potential here today," he gestured between Maya and Tom, "and it's rare. Powerful. What if I told you that I could help you break through those walls?" "What do you mean?" Maya asked, curiosity piquing despite her reservations. "I want to fund a company, one that reshapes the narrative of privilege and access. I can provide the resources, the mentorship. But I need you both to envision it with me." Maya's chest tightened. Could she even dream of such a venture? The disparity between their worlds had always seemed insurmountable, yet here was someone presenting an opportunity that could change everything. "What's your angle?" Tom's skepticism cut through the air, reminding her that not everyone had altruistic motives. Vincent's expression softened, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability. "My angle is simple. I've learned that putting wealth at the center of our decisions often leads to destruction of integrity. I want to invest in people who will redefine success not through material gain, but through impact." A heavy silence enveloped them, and with it, a whirlwind of possibilities swirled around Maya's mind. Did she have the courage to step into the unknown? To embrace this chance that could snap her from the struggle that had defined her existence thus far? When she spoke again, her voice lowered to a whisper, "And if we fail? What then? Failure is merely another stepping stone. What I'm offering isn't just a chance for success, it's a chance for growth. But it's your journey, not mine." Maya felt her ambition flare, igniting hope and dread in equal measure, the scales tipping towards the future she had always imagined but feared too much to pursue. Tom shifted his weight, his brow furrowing in contemplation. "We need time to think about this," he finally said, his protective instincts clashing with curiosity. Vincent nodded, a hint of understanding in his eyes. "I can give you that. But remember, the opportunity may not wait forever." As Vincent turned to leave, lingering tension hung between them, fraught with questions and potential. Maya felt the universe shift around her, a pause before the seismic rattle of fate. "Wait!" she called suddenly, her heart racing with resolve. "I'm in." Tom's eyes widened, and she could feel the weight of his incredulity. But she wasn't ready to retreat into fear, not now, not when possibilities beckoned. The offer tantalized as contagiously as it terrified. Vincent paused, a ghost of a smile crossing his lips. "Then the real journey begins." With those final words, he stepped back into the shadow of the hallway, leaving Maya and Tom teetering on the cusp of something transformative. The tension from before had morphed, uncertainty still loomed, yet it was now entwined with anticipation. Could they seize the moment? Would they grasp this fleeting chance to reshape destiny and confront the reality of who they could become together? Maya swallowed hard. The whisper of fear still lingered, but alongside it pulsed the fierce thrum of possibility. There would be obstacles ahead, but the promise of evolution called to her now. As the door clicked shut behind Vincent, a new storm of thoughts swirled within her, a maelstrom of aspirations and worries. What challenges would they face along the way? Would they be strong enough to navigate the unseen forces that lay ahead? With these questions echoing through her mind, Maya felt a flicker of resolve ignite within her. They did not have time to wade in uncertainty. It was time to fully commit to the fight ahead. The world outside awaited, and it was theirs for the taking. Maya stood in the center of the dimly lit room, the weight of her decision settling heavily upon her shoulders. The echo of Vincent's words lingered in her mind, each syllable both a challenge and an invitation. It felt as if she had crossed a threshold into a new reality, where her past struggles would either define her or become stepping stones to growth. Tom's expression was unreadable, a mixture of wonder and caution. "Maya, do you really think we can do this?" His voice was low, measured. "We don't have any experience running a business. We're used to surviving, not thriving." Her heart raced at the thought of their potential. What had always felt so distant and unattainable was now a vivid palette of opportunity. "There's a first time for everything, Tom. Just because we haven't done it before doesn't mean we can't. We'll learn and grow. But what if we fail? This is a huge commitment." His voice rose slightly, the echo of a protective instinct. "Failure is part of growth," she countered, surprised at her own conviction. "If I could survive the streets and overcome everything I've faced, stepping into this unknown seems manageable by comparison." Suddenly, she was propelled by an inner strength she hadn't fully recognized before. Tom looked into her eyes, and she saw a flicker of hope and fear wrestling for supremacy. "We could. But it's going to test us, Maya. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of pressure?" "More than ready," she affirmed, her voice a mix of fervor and resolve. "We're breaking through those walls. We'll have Vincent's mentorship. We can learn from him." The idea of mentorship ignited her imagination. In the days that followed, Maya found herself immersed in research, her fingertips dancing over the keyboard as she pored over articles, podcasts, and videos about entrepreneurship. Each click opened a door to new concepts and strategies she'd never considered before. The world of startups felt alive, buzzing with energy and the scent of fresh ideas. As she learned, her vision began to crystallize. They wouldn't merely create a business, they would craft a brand built on authenticity, designed to empower others like them. The audacity of it filled her with excitement. What if they could build a community that changed lives, one story at a time? Yet as the days turned into weeks, the reality of inexperience bore down on her. In her moments of quiet reflection, doubt seeped in. How could she expect to measure up against seasoned entrepreneurs, most of whom had resources and networks she could only dream of? What if she faltered when it mattered most? Their first meeting with Vincent in the conference room felt like a reckoning. Sitting across from them, he radiated authority, his experience palpable. Opening her laptop, Maya's fingers trembled as she prepared to present the vision she'd nurtured. "What do you have for me?" Vincent asked, his eyes sharp yet inviting. Maya cleared her throat, and despite her pulse pounding, she began to speak, her thoughts coalescing. "We're not just looking to launch a business. We want to transform the narrative around access and opportunity. Our brand will be about empowering those who have felt the weight of society's discrepancies." Vincent leaned forward, his interest piqued. "That's ambitious. What's your plan?" In a whirlwind of words, she outlined their ideas: community workshops, mentoring programs, partnerships with local organizations. She spoke with fervor, visuals flashing across the screen as her ideas took flight, her initial fear melting under the warmth of passion. During the presentation, she felt a shift within herself. This was not just a performance, it was an embodiment of her aspirations, the defining moment of her personal development. She was no longer the scared girl grappling with uncertainty, she was a formidable force ready to take on the world. Vincent nodded, seemingly impressed but not without a challenge. "Ambition is only the beginning. You'll need to prepare not just for success but for inevitable pitfalls. Are you ready to face criticism, to pivot when instincts scream, to adhere to your original plan?" Maya met his gaze. "I'm ready for everything, including failure. We'll use it to build a stronger foundation." Something electric rippled through the room at that moment, a shared understanding of her commitment. As the meeting ended, she caught a glimpse of potential unfolding before her, revealing a road that could lead to not just financial success but personal liberation from the cycles of her past. After Vincent departed, Maya turned to Tom, her heart racing. "Did you hear him? I think we actually impressed him." Tom cracked a smile, a tentative shift in his demeanor reassuring her. "We're really doing this, aren't we?" Just as exhilaration swirled within her, a quiet voice reminded her that every triumph came with the risk of failure. But now, a new determination stirred within Maya, a resolve to take each step with intention and courage. "What's next?" she asked Tom, her eyes gleaming. "We need a business plan, something solid to present at our next meeting," he replied, his expression turning serious again. They turned to the whiteboard, sketches and notes flowing like magic between them. As they collaborated, Maya realized that for every fear they faced, her excitement grew, and with it came a burgeoning belief in their shared capability. Dusk blanketed the city as they pieced together their ideas. With every brainstorm, the doubts receded. Still, the uncertainty of the road ahead weighed on her, a reminder that they were only at the beginning of this monumental journey. Maya took a deep breath. The path stretched out before them, full of rough terrain and hidden challenges. Each obstacle they faced would test their resolve, yet she felt something unshakable within her. As the stars began to twinkle outside, she understood, this was just the beginning of a transformation that would redefine not just their lives but potentially the lives of many others. What if, she pondered aloud, instead of just surviving, we become a model for others like us to thrive? Tom's expression shifted, the realization settling in. This venture could be more than a business, it could be a beacon of hope. With that thought, Maya realized they needed to communicate this vision effectively, showcasing not just their intentions but also their emotional commitment to the journey ahead. But lurking in the back of her mind was an unsettling question: were they prepared for the realities that awaited them, including the resistance from a world unwilling to accept change? With a deep breath, she let the excitement wash over her once again. The storm ahead might be daunting, but she was ready to embrace it beginning now. Yet as Maya leaned over the board to jot down their growing plan, a wellspring of unease flickered in her gut, forecasting that the challenges ahead would demand more from her than she had anticipated. What could truly unravel as they embarked on this journey? What personal sacrifices would she have to confront? Determined, she turned to Tom, an electric energy surging between them. "Let us shape our destiny," she declared, the thrill of the unknown pulling them forward into the depths of their commitment. "Together," he affirmed, yet uncertainty hung in the air like thick fog, whispering that their greatest tests were right around the corner. The following days took on a rhythm that was both exhilarating and daunting. Maya and Tom set forth on a path of relentless preparation, diving deeper into every aspect of business planning. They scoured online resources, deciphering financial models and branding essentials. Each evening, the dim light of a single lamp illuminated the living room turned workspace. Not just papers, but their dreams filled the space, scattered notes morphing into coherent ideas. Maya found herself waking in the early hours, her mind racing with business strategies and market analyses. She would grab her phone to record ideas that flashed like lightning in her thoughts, each revelation driving her forward. The world around her began to stretch with possibility. They weren't merely putting together a plan, they were carving out an identity, a legacy that stemmed from the very essence of her survival story. Yet, doubt was a consistent companion. Maya often caught herself at the edge of anxiety, wondering if they were grasping too far, too quickly. One evening, she sat across from Tom, both of them running through a particularly ambitious component of their proposal. "Maya," Tom said, leaning back in his chair, "what if we're just not cut out for this? What if these big ideas don't land well?" His words hung heavily in the air. She could see the uncertainty etched across his brow, each furrow a reflection of her own thoughts. But then she felt it again, the rush of resolve that had surged in that initial meeting with Vincent. "Tom," she started, aware that every word mattered now, "we've both fought hard for a place in this world. This brand, our vision, it's as much our story as it is a business. The fear you feel? I feel it too. But if we don't risk anything, we'll keep living like we have been just surviving." He looked at her, the flicker in his eyes igniting something inside her. "There's a different kind of life waiting for us, and we can't achieve it unless we step outside of what we know. Yes, it's daunting, but we've endured adversity before. This is just another challenge." The conviction in her voice startled even her. That night, as she reflected on their conversation, Maya took out the journal she had kept since her childhood. Within its pages lay fragments of her story, heartaches and triumphs woven together, detailing the very challenges she'd overcome. The idea of transforming that narrative into a business ethic ignited a fire. It wasn't just about selling products or ideas, it was about imparting wisdom from her journey to others. Each morning presented an array of obstacles that tested her resolve. They needed market research, branding design, and a financial model that could withstand scrutiny. Maya began reaching out to local businesses, sharing their vision, seeking advice, and forming connections. Yet with each engagement, she felt shadows lurking at the corners of her mind, whispering reminders of her inexperience. As she settled into this new routine, a surprising realization struck her. The lessons she learned years ago on the streets now illuminated her path. Negotiation, resourcefulness, and a fierce sense of self-worth. These competencies had been honed under adverse conditions, sharpening her instincts for this very moment. Inspired, she texted Tom the next morning, "Let us interview even more people. We need mentorship beyond just Vincent. Other entrepreneurs can offer invaluable insights into our local market." Against the backdrop of their growing ambition, she poised herself for the inevitable pushback. The journey embarked upon would be riddled with internal and external scrutiny, but the combination of their past experiences infused her with an unyielding desire to press on. As they prepared for their next meeting, Maya's heart raced with anticipation and dread. They presented their refined business plan, radiant visuals reflecting their journey from scattered thoughts to a cohesive brand statement. Each slide resonated with more confidence than before, and as she spoke, the bond with Tom felt palpable, a shared determination linking them together. But Vincent's return tempered the moment with scrutiny. Her palms sweat slightly, and her heart constricted under his gaze. "Your plan looks comprehensive," he said, yet there was a weightiness to his tone, as if he was gauging their resilience. "But the market isn't forgiving. What will you do when things don't go according to plan?" Maya felt the shift in the room. A wave of questions bubbled up within her. "Adjust," she responded firmly, the words slipping from her lips with an instinctual clarity. "To learn, to pivot, to adapt. Those aren't just strategies, there are lifelines." A piercing silence followed, Vincent's expression unreadable. This was the moment that could define them, and she sensed the gravity enveloping the room. As the discussion turned toward financial metrics, Maya's enthusiasm battled against a daunting reality. What if their projected outcomes didn't align with market realities? What internal barriers would they have to shatter to navigate the volatile waters ahead? When the meeting concluded, Tom grinned, but uncertainty lingered in Maya's chest. What if Vincent's right? What if we can't pivot as easily as we think? She murmured, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Tom placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "What if we can? We won't know until we try." Just then, Maya received a notification on her phone, an email from a potential investor who was intrigued by their concept and wanted to meet. A spark ignited within her, both a thrill and a weight pulling in opposite directions. "Tom," she said, her voice trembling with anticipation. "What if this is an opportunity to prove ourselves?" As her gaze seared into the monitor screen, she could sense the shadows of self-doubt gathering behind her, waiting to ensnare her. But Maya was no longer just the girl from the streets, she was a woman ready to confront the unknown, tethered to her vision. The countdown to their next step had begun, uncertainty lacing the air as she understood just how much was at stake. This was the moment where clarity and chaos collided. Could they truly navigate the tumultuous world ahead, or were they bound to succumb to pressures far greater than their fledgling resolve? With that thought swirling in her mind, a new question loomed larger than ever. What would they sacrifice to forge their path? Maya woke early the following day, her mind already racing with thoughts of the upcoming investor meeting. The email had ignited a flame within her, filled with both potential and lurking anxiety. She could hardly take a breath without feeling the pressure of expectation looming over her and Tom. This could be the moment where everything changed, but what if it was another step toward failure? The sun filtered through the window, casting a warm glow on her scattered notes, reminders of her aspirations yet to be fulfilled. Maya sat on the edge of her bed, clutching her journal. Its pages contained a chronicle of fear, resilience, and now determination. She flipped it open, tracing the ink with her fingertips, words of encouragement from past struggles igniting a sense of purpose. Every challenge she had faced felt like a prelude to this pivotal moment. Words transforming into action seemed to be her only way forward. She called Tom, voice steady yet layered with urgency. "We need to rehearse our pitch. I want to get this right." After some back and forth, they settled on a time and place, where they could run through their presentation until every line was etched into their memories. As she dressed, the gravity of her past lingered at the forefront of her mind. In those dark days of navigating survival, she'd never imagined a world where she'd be presenting to investors, where her voice would command attention instead of shrinking in shadows. When they met, Tom was charged with excitement, but a hint of trepidation was still buried beneath his eagerness. "You ready?" he asked, his usual light-hearted tone carrying an undercurrent of seriousness. More than ever, Maya responded, channeling the conviction she felt surge through her. Navigating the meeting space felt like walking into a spotlight. Each step mirrored the beat of her racing heart, thoughts of doubt chasing after her with swift, sharp breaths. The conference room buzzed with the hum of discussions, the ambience thick with ambition and competition. She saw other entrepreneurs, all, it seemed, seasoned and polished, each presenting a facade of confidence. "Remember, we're not here to compete, we're here to share our vision." Tom's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts as they settled at the table. They launched into their pitch, Maya steering the narrative with clarity, her voice a stark contrast to the frail whispers that had once characterized her existence. But with every positive nod from the investors, doubt crept back into the recesses of her mind, casting a shadow over her newfound strength. Had they truly honed their business model enough? A few tough questions from the investors sent ripples of anxiety coursing through her, each inquiry probing deeper into their strategy. Yet, there was a moment, a flicker of determination she couldn't ignore. She recognized that in their questioning lay not just criticism but curiosity about their potential. "Tell me your projections," one of the investors pressed. Maya held her breath for a heartbeat longer than necessary before responding. "Our conservative estimates account for market entry challenges, while our optimistic projections reflect our unique positioning and strong community ties." Each word dripped with the knowledge forged through experience, calculated yet filled with spark. As they concluded their presentation, she felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. Tom shared a knowing glance with her, an affirmation that they had presented their truth as authentically as possible, but as they navigated through questions and discussions, she sensed something deeper within herself emerging. With every answer they provided, she felt an awakening, the realization that her survival instincts weren't merely applicable to her past, they were invaluable tools for her future. "I'm ready to fight for this," Maya whispered to Tom as they walked out, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Well, you just showed it in there," he replied, excitement bubbling back to the surface. Yet, as they left the building, her mind churned with uncertainty. What if the investors didn't believe in their vision? What if their sacrifices weren't enough? Each scenario painted a picture of potential failure, but failure was a familiar phase. She had danced with it too many times before, always emerging on the other side. That evening, while organizing feedback notes from the meeting, an email notification pulled her focus, a message indicating they had made it to the second round of consideration. It sent a jolt of exhilaration through her, yet the shadows from earlier pressed against her resolve. This was only the beginning, a measurement of their worth against market realities that did not hold back. Maya realized she was at a crossroads. The journey ahead was not just about securing funding, it was a test of her tenacity, her ability to confront not only external pressures but the internal fears that had accompanied her closer than any friend ever could. She squeezed the pen in her hand, contemplating their next steps. They had all the pieces to their puzzle, but could they complete the picture together? Challenged by an unpredictable future, Maya felt an echo of determination resonate within her. This was far from over, the battleground was shifting, her pulse quickened with a new thought as she drafted her response to the investor's request for further documentation. This was the first real chance to redefine her narrative. What sacrifices would she make now? The possibilities felt endless yet constraining. Maya closed her laptop, staring into the unlit corners of her living room, the space that had become their sanctuary and battlefield. This isn't just about the business anymore, she murmured to herself, fully aware the stakes had just risen. It's about me. She took a moment, inhaling deep, crystalline breaths. What did it mean to confront this new version of herself? The answer danced forebodingly close, yet shadowed by the uncertainty that rattled her core. As she flicked off the lamp, one thought crystallized like a beacon through the darkness: maybe the true challenge had just begun. And as she slipped into bed, her mind opened to new questions. Who would she become in the face of fear? What depths of sacrifice and resilience was she prepared to explore in pursuit of her vision? Maya awoke the next morning, the sunlight slicing through the curtains like a spotlight in her mind. She could still feel the remnants of the investor meeting swirling within her like an unresolved melody, a mix of excitement and the residue of doubt. This second chance wasn't merely a professional pivot, it was an opportunity that threatened to reshape her entire existence. Her resolve strengthened, she flipped open her journal. With a steady breath, she began to pen down her reflections, what she had learned, her emerging strengths after the pitch. It was an act of deliberate acknowledgement, capturing the essence of her transformation. Each word provided clarity, anchoring her amidst the chaotic tide of her thoughts. The inbox on her laptop chimed as Tom's email landed, a mixture of encouragement and a few daunting reminders about the next steps they had to take. She smiled at his endless optimism, yet the weight of her own expectations pressed upon her. Time to gather data, she muttered, as she started compiling reports, competitor analysis, and market research. Each component felt increasingly essential, a building block for not just securing funding, but for validating their vision. The stakes indeed felt higher than she had ever fathomed. As she dove deeper into the research, old habits clawed at her confidence. What if the data fell flat? What if her diligence wasn't enough? A moment of anxiety threatened to spiral, but she quickly turned it around. She had endured far worse, fought against currents more daunting than merely presenting figures. With determination pulsating through her veins, she crafted visual aids, charts and graphs that illustrated their potential in stark terms. Visual storytelling became a means to align not only Tom's energy but also her vision with tangible evidence. She felt the pulse of innovation coursing through her, a discovery that she could adapt and mold her talents into effective strategies. Later that week, the team was summoned to another meeting at the investor's headquarters. It felt different this time. Maya had more than just a dream to pitch, she had a fortified presentation that reflected their sweat, aspirations, and newfound clarity. "Let us engage them," she said to Tom as they walked towards the conference room. She could feel the adrenaline thrumming beneath her skin, the familiar rush firing her purpose. She took the lead as they presented, her heart now aligned with her passion. Her voice rang out, punctuated with confidence that had previously eluded her. The investors leaned in, curiosity flickering in their eyes as she painted a vibrant picture of their potential trajectory. They asked probing questions again, but this time, Maya faced them head-on, unfurling answers they hadn't dared to ask before. Partway through the session, their lead investor, a relentless entrepreneur himself, challenged her directly: "How far are you willing to go if things get tough?" His sharp gaze pinned her, and for a moment, she saw the flicker of that old fear rise within her. "Just as far as I have to," Maya shot back, her voice steady and unwavering. In that moment, she felt a surge of something previously unknown, a fierce commitment that transcended mere survival. It encapsulated hope, bravery, and a willingness to extend her identity beyond what others had prescribed for her. As the meeting wrapped up, a sense of urgency flickered within her. She had ignited a new fire, not just in the room but within herself, the audacity to confront doubts and internal conflicts head-on. The investors, intrigued by her response and the authenticity she exuded, promised to review their documents soon. Maya's pulse raced as they left the building. Their proposal felt more than just another business opportunity, it was an affirmation of her resilience, and she was no longer just a woman seeking validation, she was a force of nature backing her ambitions. The following day, while revisiting her pitch materials, Maya stumbled upon a concept falling just out of reach, a potential pivot that could elevate their initiative. What if they reconsidered their unique selling proposition to better capture the evolving market trends? The synergy was dazzling, yet dangerous, a radical rethinking of her entire approach. Her mind raced with possibilities, yet that same old doubting voice gripped her. Could she truly transform the narrative in such bold strokes? Was it time to disrupt her plans once again, fully immersing herself in a vision that required absolute conviction? She took a deep breath, the overwhelming sense of urgency wrapping around her like a second skin. The crossroads loomed larger than before, stirring both fear and exhilaration. Equipped with every lesson etched in her being, she knew she had to push past comfort zones. The time has come to face the unknown, she thought, grasping the pen tighter, ready to define this new version of herself not just as an entrepreneur but as an architect of her destiny. And with a determined flick of her wrist, she wrote down her daring idea, letting it take shape. What awaited her on this uncharted path? Would she forge ahead into the risk of radical change, or retreat back to the safety of predictability? The invitation to redefine her journey lay within her grasp. She could almost feel the pulse of the investors growing nearer. The next step would be her most crucial yet, and a daring whisper ran through her, urging her forward. This is only the beginning. Maya sat in her small home office, the walls adorned with reminders of her progression, a timeline of her journey backward and forward, achievements scribbled next to doubts crossed out with fierce determination. She felt the weight of her decision pressing heavily upon her chest. The crossroads beckoned, teasing the thrill of a new venture while challenging her sense of security. Her notebook clutched in hand, she felt a surge of inspiration as she contemplated her latest idea. Demanding that she see her vision in a new light, the moment was infused with both risk and possibility. What if they reframed their unique selling proposition entirely, positioning themselves not just as a solution but as a pioneering force within their sector? It was an exhilarating notion, but with it came the echoes of lingering insecurities. Questions bombarded her mind. Would investors follow her lead? Did she possess the ability to guide her team through turbulent waters into uncharted success? Each query cut deep, yet Maya welcomed the challenge. Transformative moments were rarely comfortable, they required confronting the uncomfortable truths that had dictated her past. The silence of her office broke as she commandeered her laptop, frantically typing the foundation of her new proposition. The words flowed like a river, igniting wildfires of creativity in their wake. As her thoughts crystallized into coherent points, she wondered if this would be the pitch that would define her. Would it signal her emergence as an industry innovator rather than a mere participant? Tom arrived shortly after, his genuine excitement filling the room as he scanned her scattered notes. "Looks like you've been busy," he remarked, eyes shining with curiosity. "I think I have an entirely new direction for us," she replied, pulse racing as she shared her vision. "It's bold, and yes, it could feel a bit risky, but what if we don't just present a product, but rather create an experience that resonates with consumers profoundly?" He nodded, mirroring her enthusiasm. "That's the spirit we need. Let us place ourselves at the forefront of this market, challenge existing boundaries." But a thread of doubt tied itself around Maya's spirit as she watched Tom's unyielding enthusiasm halo around his head. What if her vision was simply too ambitious? But she found solace in the undercurrent of support manifesting from Tom. As they pinned their updated strategy on the whiteboard, Maya sensed the negative chatter in her mind simmering. It took her a moment to fully absorb how far she had come from the timid woman at the beginning of her journey. Each vibrant word, a direct reflection of the transformation reweaving her identity, confident and brazen. "You ready for the next pitch?" Tom asked, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow, the pressure beginning to mount. "More than ever," she responded, a clear edge in her voice that radiated conviction. But beneath that resolve lay the heartbeat of anxiety. Could she truly rise to the challenge ahead? Weeks rolled by, filled with rehearsal sessions, where she refined her passion into palpable energy, each presentation an iteration closer to her vision. As the day of the next pitch approached, her newfound conviction faced its first trial. Rumors circulated that one of their competitors, a titan in the industry, was planning to refine their model, a move that could undermine her daring proposal before it even reached the investors. The night before the pitch, she sat alone, the weight of impending competition adding a fresh layer of uncertainty. Every promise of the previous weeks battled the invasive thoughts of failure creeping in. Should she modify her concept to appease the possible objections? The hourly tension tightened its grip, siphoning her creativity and replacing it with dread. Yet, even in her shaking resolve, a new epiphany flickered within her, a responsibility to her vision that exceeded the need to seek validation. This was no longer just her journey, this was a chance to empower herself completely, regardless of external forces. Maya understood the stakes had crystallized into a singular truth: she had invested too much of herself to slow down now. The urge to retreat faded, replaced with an unwavering commitment to her vision. She knew she had to advocate for the boldness behind it. "Tomorrow will be my day," she murmured to herself while closing her notebook. The spark ignited once more. Would she rise to the occasion, shattering the shackles holding her back permanently? The perfect opportunity hovered on the horizon, just shy of fruition, but with it came uncertainty that stirred deep restlessness within her. Would her courage hold firm against the waves assembled to test her resolve? With that thought lingering like a double-edged sword, she prepared herself for the ultimate confrontation. Maya stood at the entrance of the conference hall, her heart racing as the echo of her previous pitches surged through her mind. This time was different, thicker, more electric. The stakes had never felt higher. Their rich competitor loomed on the horizon, threatening not just their proposal but the very core of what she had fought to build alongside Tom. She felt the weight of the opportunity pressing down on her, but beneath it was a fire igniting her resolve. As she stepped into the room, tomorrows that had once haunted her now felt like a promise. This was her moment of transformation, and with every confident stride, she shed the heavy cloak of doubt that had clung to her since childhood. This isn't just a pitch. It's a representation of hope, a narrative we've crafted against all odds, she reminded herself. Let us captivate them, she whispered to Tom, who stood at her side, mirroring her energy but tempered with thoughtful caution. His presence was a reminder of how far they had come together, two once helpless souls now relentless in their pursuit of a shared dream. As she began, her voice rang clear, slicing through the tension that enveloped the room. Today, we're not just presenting a product, we're offering a choice. A chance to reshape this market and the lives it touches. Together, we can set a powerful precedent. The investors leaned forward, interest peaked. Each word was a declaration of her journey, layered with authenticity and aspiration. The room shifted, an undercurrent of excitement unfurling like the petals of a flower. Despite moments of trepidation, she wove the narrative of her life, how scraps of existence had merged into a vision for impact. It was more than business, it was liberation, and she was ready to claim her place in this world. Questions arose, challenging yet inquisitive, and with each exchange, Maya felt the anxiety begin to dissolve. The investors, intrigued by not only their idea but by the passion shining through, engaged with the urgency she had forged. "Tell me, how do you plan to sustain this impact despite market fluctuations?" one asked, his brow furrowed thoughtfully. "By anchoring our business in the community we aim to serve, creating an ecosystem that adapts and thrives regardless of external pressures," she declared, her voice unwavering. In that moment, she felt the layers of her identity coalescing into something undeniably powerful. She wasn't merely surviving, she was thriving. Each struggle had shaped her into a warrior of change, capable of turning even the fiercest doubts into stepping stones. The room buzzed with palpable interest, and as the discussions unfolded, she caught glimpses of their competitors across the way, apprehensive, uncertain. It ignited a spark within her. This was a battle she was ready to win, not just against them but against every doubt she had ever harbored. They were both momentarily insignificant compared to the wave of transformation she felt surging through her mind and heart. Finally, as the meeting concluded, a sense of closure punctuated the air. The investors exchanged glances laden with contemplation. Would they accept this daring vision, one rooted not just in benevolence but in genuine change? Maya sensed the promise of accomplishment cuddling close, a tangible shift completed not just for her venture but within her very soul. When the head investor offered a tentative smile and said they'd be in touch, Maya felt a jolt of success course through her, an electric thrill that radiated hope. "We did it, Maya," Tom whispered breathlessly, as they stepped out into the hallway. The gravity of what lay ahead was heavy, but so was the weight of their achievement. As days turned into weeks, the call finally arrived. They were welcomed to launch, the brand words of affirmation spilling from the investors' lips almost as if they were casting spells of new beginnings. The gravity of acceptance filled her being with warmth. They had officially taken that leap. Maya witnessed a profound shift within herself. She wasn't simply a survivor grafting on the precision of the past. She had metamorphosed into a beacon of resilience, courage, and ambition. The accolades she had received from the investors punctuated her journey, not solely as an entrepreneur brandishing success but as a woman gracefully wielding her future. Standing on the precipice of her new reality, she turned to Tom. "We did this, together. Not only did we conquer our fears, but we also built a legacy," she proclaimed, a radiant smile illuminating her features. Tom nodded, gratitude mingling with disbelief in his eyes. "And we're just getting started." With that, they embraced the promise, unfurling before them a vision reborn into a mission of empowerment. As women and men gathered to join their venture, Maya realized the depth of her commitment. In the face of uncertainty, there lay a relentless spirit illuminating uncharted paths. The final moment of her journey crystallized into clarity. This was her achievement, the triumph that would redefine the narrative not only for her but for countless others. Because she had risen above the darkness, she owned her narrative, carving out space for communal transformation through her ambition. Maya took a deep breath, her heart swelling with pride. She was no longer that girl hiding behind dumpsters. She was a leader forging a brighter path. Now, it was time for the world to witness the story of perseverance marked through her journey. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire you to rise above your challenges. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It makes a difference, trust me. Comment below your reactions and theories about this ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and be inspired to chase their dreams. Don't wait even one more second to share. Your support is the heartbeat of this story,